Hello there, my name is Dante, and today you are watching my channel Bliss Beings, where I explore all of the juicy spiritual subjects. Today I want to make a review of the many different spiritual teachers out there to just share what my perspective is on the effectiveness of the information and the energy that they transmit. So I do not believe that on a spiritual path, as we begin to share, we need to cut ourselves off from exploring the ideas that are out there. And that is one of the things that I am quite skeptic about when I hear that from a teacher or from a channel, is that I don't listen to or expose myself to other information because that will distort my channel. Quite to the contrary, I believe the more information that we expose ourselves to, the broader perspective we have, and the more capable we are of using and refining our own intuition. So with that said, you can scroll and you can, if you want to cheat and see all of the different ratings, I'll post that in the description. Though we'll start at the top with Bashar being the first 10 out of 10. There are 3 10 out of 10s. And Bashar is, well, let's talk about first what this rating is. 10 is a complete perspective that is only going to help you expand. 5 is a neutral perspective that may give you some things and may give you other limitations. 1 is a negative perspective that is only going to confuse you. And so between there's the gradient. So between 5 and 10, there's mostly positive things with some limitations. Between 1 and 4, there's mostly a limited frequency with some perks that it brings. So 10 out of 10 Bashar. Well, Bashar has given us a formula, and that is follow your highest excitement to the best of your ability with no insistence on a particular outcome, and you will raise your frequency and expand. And this formula works without a doubt. So beyond that, Bashar has covered such a wide range of subjects and has a perspective that always resonates with me. Just listening to Bashar's information brings me into a different frequency and helps me to discover more of myself every time, to feel more in alignment with myself every time. And there has yet to be any information put out by Bashar that I disagree with. And Bashar also has this wonderful sense of humor. And humor, I believe, is one of the closest connections to the divine that we can have. That when we are in that state of the cosmic joke, we go beyond our limitations. So the information that Bashar puts out is without a doubt top notch. And I mean, if you don't believe me, you can try it out and see. Bashar covers the nuances of the law of attraction and includes this idea of the law of repulsion, which a lot of the other channel teachers do not include in their understanding. Bashar has this ability to go towards the light and also help you to see the benefit of the darkness. And one of the things that Bashar teaches is that there's nothing that happens that cannot be used in a positive way. And when you can really master this understanding and have that as part of your frequency, then you are in a positively charged state at all times that is changing your reality 100% of the time. So I love Bashar, and I love everything he puts out. Second 10 out of 10 would be Amma, or Sri Amritananda Mai, who is an avatar. So that means she is not having so much of a human experience. She's in a way spirit incarnate in form without so much of the karma that humans bring into their incarnation. So if you have come to meet Amma, you will experience her as just being totally otherworldly. And the teaching that she transmits to the world is one of serving others, serving the world, and being in touch with the divine. And this pure service is without a doubt one of the fastest ways to raise your frequency and be in a pure positive state. There's a lot of the kind of structure around Amma that maybe doesn't have such an always positive energy. That is just what other people are bringing into that. And there's a bit of this kind of like, oh wow, what is this spectacle about? With thousands of people coming to her wherever she is. Though if you kind of see beyond that and really just connect with the pure frequency she brings, it's pretty incredible. And I'll talk about the difference between the three that I give 10 out of 10. So the third 10 out of 10 would be Teal Swan. And a lot of people may cringe when they hear that I'm giving Teal a 10 out of 10. But I really, first of all, believe that it is not the person that I am giving the rating to, it is the frequency and the information that they are putting out. So Teal covers so many different subjects. She's put out a video per week that has been something that has really impacted my life in a really incredible way. And like Bashar, Teal covers the nuances of the law of attraction, especially with her most famous video, Fuck the Law of Attraction, which exposes the ways that people in the New Age distort this understanding. So there's also really this clear understanding of both what it means to go towards the light and what it means to face your shadow that Teal exposes. And some may find that a little bit threatening because Teal is really relentless when it comes to doing your shadow work. Yet this is the most rewarding work that you can really experience. And beyond that, Teal will go into so many different subjects about psychic phenomena, and every one of her perspectives has really enriched my own perspective. And one thing that's so clear with Teal is that she is teaching through paradox. So she contradicts herself a lot, and that is intentional. That is not unintentional. It's to kind of show us how multifaceted this creatrix that we live within is. So one thing is true from one perspective, and that at a higher level, a different thing is true. And Teal Swan helps people start to grasp this. But if people are not really ready for this kind of mindfuck, it can feel like she's crazy. And, well, I personally question whether or not Teal is crazy. And that, to me, does not subtract from her teachings. So there's a lot of Teal hate out there online. And it's understandable, because if you take one thing Teal says out of context, it sounds totally messed up. Yet if you listen to the whole video, it actually fits in perfectly, though you have to be able to understand that paradox thing. Teal is criticized of being kind of like too sexual and manipulative for that, and she's openly said that she manipulates people by attempting to look good. But she then explains that we're all manipulating 100% of the time, but we don't really understand or consciously bring ourselves to be aware of how we manipulate. And in that way, it's a really revealing teaching about how the nature of the mind works and how we really interact with each other. And one thing Teal offers that a lot of the other spiritual teachers don't is a really in-depth understanding of relationship, projection, and all of these different things that go into how we perceive reality. And other criticisms of her are this idea of what her child abuse story was, and if she lied about it. And somebody sent me a story recently from B. Schofield that tried to expose Teal Swan, and like a lot of that writing, it was very sensational, though a lot of that writing I do agree with, and some of that I'm like, And with Teal, I really didn't agree with this piece so much, because a lot of it was taken out of context. Though the one thing that really shook me up was like, okay, Teal Swan claims to have been sewn into the body of a corpse by her satanic abuser. And, you know, if the rest of what she said is true, she was being drugged quite a lot, and she was having her own mind messed with quite a bit. So what I came to believe or assume from this is that she may believe that she was sewn into the corpse, but I don't really think that such a thing is possible for an 8-year-old child to be sewn into a corpse in that way. People claim that Teal Swan plays mind games, and I think that also comes from her conditioning with this abuse, that having been treated this way and having been kind of manipulated in such an intense way for so long, that she uses that imprint of energy in a positive way to challenge people. And her videos in and of themselves are very challenging. So, yeah, I really love what she does and have only benefited from what she shared. And I also question her stability, her mental stability in a way, or I question if I would really want to hang out with her so much. But that for me doesn't detract from what she offers. So these 3 top 10 perspectives are in a way a trinity of very different kind of energies. Bashar being a channeled perspective, Amma being a pure light perspective without this human ego in the way at all. She came in without that. And Teal Swan being a karmic human being sharing knowledge. So in a way, each of these perspectives has its own limitation. Obviously, a channeled being and an avatar consciousness is not seeing things the same way a human is seeing. So it's offering us a higher perspective, though we can't fully get there where we're at now. It's going to take a lot of shifting. And because of where the collective consciousness is at, it's impossible for most people to get to that perspective, though there's stuff we can gain from it. So the benefit that Teal has is that she has the human perspective of going through all of that bullshit that humans can be exposed to in some of the most intense ways possible. And that allows for her perspective to really touch the deeper degrees of our shadow, which are things that we need to expose and see clearly. Though then the kind of hindrance of that perspective is that it is still biased, it is still limited, it is a human perspective. And if you have something that really rubs up against inside you, that you don't agree with what she offers, or something about her personality doesn't sync with you, it may not work. Though I, again, fully support her message. So number 4 on this list, I guess, a 9 out of 10 would be Matt Kahn. So Matt Kahn, I always watch every single one of his videos, and it brings you into this state of divine love, into a kind of surrender where you can really connect with your own spirit. And this is such a beautiful experience, and it shows you how to unravel your emotional issues in a deep way. Why this is a 9 out of 10 instead of a 10 is because I really feel that Matt Kahn is kind of spiritually bypassing some of the deeper levels of experience. So it's totally possible to use the light, to use your crown chakra, to go completely beyond all of this pain and the suffering. And I don't think that is the most aligned way to actually do the work, because when you do that, you create, again, a separation between the human self and your spiritual self. You only rest in that divine identity without coming into what these patterns are in a deeper way. And I feel this subtly in Matt Kahn's teachings, and when I first started listening to him, it was like opening me up and expanding me in a really profound way. And it still does, though I do feel this kind of degree of avoidance within that. And maybe some people don't. So what's next? I need to check the list I made. Okay, 7 out of 10. Babara Marciniak, pre-2004. She came out as one of the first Pleiadian channels, and I've read 3 out of the 4 books that she has written, and they've all really touched me in a deep way and brought deep information that has changed the way I perceive things. In those books, there's really deep downloads, and it brings you to really empower yourself and see a bigger perspective. So I still really resonate with the information brought through in these books. And I guess, in the early 2000s, and then as things expanded more and more people began to channel the Pleiadians and other beings, and the New Age expanded, just as she had predicted, it was almost like her ego started to grip onto the position of the channel, seeing that it was being threatened by a lot of other people. And I know people who've been to her channelings, and then Babara Marciniak has said, oh, you're too young to be here. This person was 20, and this information is really powerful. You got to be careful with what happens to you now. You mustn't try or attempt to channel because very dangerous things can happen. And basically, since her last book, all of the information she's put out has been very fear-based. She's wavered back and forth on a lot of ideas and contradicted herself in a way that's not paradoxical. So that is why she's again on the list, as her recent channelings are a 1 out of 10, because it's very fear-based and it elicits within people a very great degree of fear. It makes people feel like they have to watch out for everything. It's really for people who are constantly researching conspiracy theories and want to validate their perspective that the world is constantly attacking them perpetually. And if that is what you want to do, I really encourage you to listen to Babara Marciniak's recent channelings. It'll really help you be in a fear-based reality where everything is out to get you, and you have to watch out for the energies everywhere. But I don't think that that's what most people want to experience. Next on the list, 7 out of 10, Abraham Hicks. And Abraham is one of the beings that I started listening to and just felt like, wow, there's so much love here, there's so much magic, and I can create anything I want. And that perspective is one thing that I really take from Abraham and be like, wow, this is great. I love this a lot. And the understanding that we create our reality is really present in all of Abraham's work. And Abraham helps to shift our perspective to be more optimistic, and from that place create a better reality. What Abraham doesn't do is help us to go into those dark places where we're holding on to the low vibrations that will continuously attract into our reality. And so yes, we create our reality through vibration, and focusing on the positive brings positive to us. Yet there's parts of us that are subconscious and unconscious that Abraham never touches upon. Abraham doesn't go to those places and help us really feel into and release what is dark and holding us back. So it's also, to a degree, this bypassing, and from only focusing positively all the time and not looking at the darkness, it keeps you stuck in that darkness. And you may try to look at the world in these rose-colored lenses, but it doesn't fully release you from what's holding you back. And one time, there's even a video up, you can look it up, Abraham on Bashar, and somebody asked Abraham about what Bashar's perspective is and what Bashar offers, and Abraham said, probably better, probably more specific. So Abraham is really great for people who are just opening up to understanding that they create their own reality and that it's possible to get in touch with channeled beings from out there, though it won't take you all the way. And it seems like a lot of people get stuck just on that plane that Abraham offers. One other thing that I will say is that Abraham seems to have a very homogenized audience. I don't really see anyone in the audience of Abraham's channelings that are not just white, middle-aged people. And this is also one limitation here, is that yes, you create your reality through vibration, though if you've been practicing a really intense vibration for so long, of poverty, of lack, it's actually nearly impossible to change that pattern without some support. And Abraham seems to teach people that people can just do anything they want, and yes, miracles happen, though that is when a very advanced soul comes into a very limited perspective, but doesn't identify with that perspective. And that's a very rare thing. So a lot of people who surround themselves with this kind of information start to spiritually bypass and blame people for what they are attracting and justify their privileged perspective because they lined up with it vibrationally. And those thousands and millions of people out there who are suffering have done that because they've lined up with that vibrationally. And while that is true, that is a terrible justification for the inequality in the world that, to a degree, Abraham perpetuates. So 7 out of 10, maybe even 6 out of 10 for that reason. It will help you a lot, though Bashar and Teal Swan will help you more. So next, 7 out of 10, Ekhart Tolle. Ekhart Tolle is in this school of thought of non-duality and going beyond to access the eternal now. And reading his book, The Power of Now, really profoundly changed my life in a way that, I'd already been practicing yoga and doing a lot of the Eastern practices, though it showed me in a very clear and direct way that I had the option of not identifying with my pain, and that if I faced it and experienced it, it would liberate me from it even greater. And so Ekhart Tolle's teachings in this regard are perfect, though where I don't agree with Ekhart Tolle is this idea that all we have to do to save the world is change our consciousness. And that is keeping us in a way in a more non-physical plane where we are in physical reality. And as Bashar says, action is the language of physical reality. So all of this information can help us really go beyond the pain and go to these higher spiritual realms. Though if we don't act on our excitement and speak the language of physical reality, we're never going to change physical reality. Where Ekhart Tolle teaches people that you can change physical reality simply with your consciousness. Now, to some degrees that is possible, though you have to take some action. And just sitting and meditating all day is not going to change the world. Sorry. So next we have Osho, 6 out of 10. Osho is really great for supporting people in getting out of the old stuck way of seeing things. So Osho covers those more traditional Eastern perspectives and also goes beyond to help people really get into their emotions and into their sexuality. And as has been exposed, that has brought people to have really intense, crazy experiences and liberate themselves. And so many people are still sannyasins, though there's so much information about Osho that has shown the corruption behind the scenes. There's still something to gain from Osho's teachings, though I feel like you should only do dynamic meditation 4 or 5 times, and then you've kind of got the point. There's a certain degree to which if you, for spiritual purposes, go into a intense negative emotional state, that you are not releasing yourself from it, you're actually re-imprinting it in your system. So when there is a resistance to feeling something negative, it's good to go into it fully, because that dissolves the resistance, and therefore you're not saying that this emotion is good and that emotion is bad anymore. You're simply allowing your experience to be what it is. For that reason, what Osho has done for people is incredible, though by continuously recreating a state of anger or sadness or fear, you actually re-imprint that in your system. If those things arise naturally due to triggers or due to simply getting more in touch with yourself, it's great to explore them and transform them with your awareness into the light. But to, out of nothing, create an intense energy is honestly not that helpful. Next, 6 out of 10, Ramana Maharishi. So again, Ramana Maharishi is bringing people to go to the no self, to ask and self-inquire, who are they? And this helps you to dissolve your ego and to feel what is beyond all of that. And this opens up an incredible flow of energy through your body that's super liberating. Yet, when you don't do the work of actually creating a healthy ego structure, creating a healthy sense of self-concept and self-worth, and really being who you are, which to a degree has identity, before you start to dissolve all of that, it creates disease, because you are disidentifying from those things that are still imbalanced. But disidentifying from them doesn't make them go away, it simply changes how you respond to them. That's awakening, though it isn't clearing out the patterns. So, because of Ramana Maharishi and other people who have taught similar teachings, people will go into these states of total disidentification from their stuff, and they may feel very spiritual, and in meditation they may feel this transcendence, yet the stuff doesn't go away. And so people will think that, oh, just meditating or just doing these spiritual practices is enough, but it's not. And you have to do the deeper inner work as well. So Teal Swan has videos about selective identification. Check that out. And the sad truth about most gurus. So this pretty much clearly explains the guru syndrome and why doing what they say can help you, though it can actually create more imbalance because you're opening up a stronger energy without clearing out the density. And then the density manifests, and hence Ramana Maharishi had these tumors and cancers. So that's another thing, another point that, remembering this, I may even want to deduct another point from Kahn, because he said sometimes disease does not have a spiritual or emotional origin, and that is a lie. That is just somebody keeping their idolization of their teacher intact. When anytime there is that kind of disease or imbalance, there's something going on that you need to look at, and there is an emotional cause that is your responsibility. So, yeah. A lot of other people will say that, oh, well, Ramana Maharishi was just taking on other people's karma, the karma of his students, and that may or may not be true, though that is not helpful to do. You're not empowering someone when you're taking energy from them and processing it yourself. So, through example, that is not a good example to set. Next, 6 out of 10 is Yogi Bhajan. So, if you're friends with me on Facebook, you see that sing at the end of my name, and that's just there as an artifact. I practiced Kundalini Yoga for many years, and it really, the best thing I got from Kundalini Yoga was the ability to be focused in a positive way in discomfort. And I keep that with me, because in Kundalini Yoga you push yourself into really extreme poses for strong amounts of time, and it purifies your body and gives you this incredible strength. Though I'll borrow this analogy again from Teal, that when you are practicing something so intense as Kundalini Yoga that's continuously raising this spiritual energy within you, but you're not actually changing your life to be truly who you are. It's like you are on a boat that has a hole in it and it's filling with water, and every day you empty the boat of some of its water for an hour or two, and then the boat can go on another day, but you're not repairing the hole that's sinking. And that hole that's causing the boat to sink is the lack of authenticity within your life. So Kundalini Yoga is probably, well, when we look at our definition of a cult here, from many perspectives, Kundalini Yoga is a cult. From other perspectives, Kundalini Yoga is not a cult. Though what happens when people start practicing this is that they start to reject aspects of their old self that they are taught from Yogi Bhajan are not spiritual and are harmful. Yet there's so many contradictions, because I was at a Kundalini Yoga training, and Yogi Bhajan's assistant for many years was asked a question at the end of her speech on his life. What about these ideas of his scandals and whatnot? And what she said was, there's a lot of information out there, and you can look at it on the internet. I don't know, I'm not saying anything. So, she didn't directly condemn him. She didn't directly say this is true or not true. She focused on the positive things that he brought, and they're incredible. So the information and the practice of Kundalini Yoga really can show you a deep awareness of your body and of your spirit and of your mind. And I'm so grateful for what I've learned from this. Though, is it really authentic for me to, for 2.5 hours every day, chant these mantras and do this weird shit? No, it's not. I don't want to do that. It made me feel good for a while, but then I also found doing the practice itself, a lot of it really imbalanced me more. And there's not really a teaching within these manuals that says you should do this Kriya if you're working with this condition. There's just, this Kriya is for this. And it's not really clear. It's like the Kriya for becoming infinity. So, okay, yeah, I want to become infinity, but it doesn't say that this Kriya can really unground you and make you unstable if you are not already grounded and stable. And I find that a lot of people practicing this are living in the clouds and in their ideas of what is spiritual, and they're so, they can get so frustrated when what that is challenged, or when people are simply being themselves and being spiritual in a different way. And I'm really grateful for my time with Kundalini Yoga, because it's showed me that for me, what is being spiritual is being true to myself. And a lot of those things that are true to me are not these very spiritual, holy, strict things. And that is actually more liberating and more exciting and more true for me. It brings me closer to my source than sitting and meditating and singing all these mantras. Though I think for some people this could be an authentic expression of themselves. Without a doubt, that's definitely true. But that doesn't get rid of the sort of hypocrisy of Yogi Bhajan, of saying one thing in his life about something and doing the other. And it doesn't get rid of the fact that a lot of these kriyas will unbalance you. I find that other yogas that are going much deeper into the body with slow breath rather than all the time actually change the structure of my body in a much deeper way. The Kundalini Yoga activated my Kundalini, and I will always have that activation from it. Though, you know, activating your Kundalini doesn't solve your problems, it only makes them worse. So it was very psychologically challenging for me in those early years of my path when I was activating my Kundalini and all of that stuff was coming up. And looking back, there was a more compassionate and more effective and more clear, direct, fast way to do it. And I hope that I am more fully embodying that now for the people that I work with. Next, 5 out of 10, Kryon. Known to be the channel that uses the most words to say the least. So again, this 5 is the point where it's not good, it's not bad, it just it brings some good things, brings some bad things. I've listened to a lot of Kryon channelings, and to be honest, I don't remember many of them. It transmits a pretty powerful energy, like most channelings do, of this higher perspective. And one day I just stopped listening to these channelings altogether when Kryon was talking in a literal sense of the Garden of Eden. And he was saying back in the Garden of Eden there was this and there was that, and this goes against the information that comes through all of the channels that I do resonate with, like Bashar and so on and so forth. So there's this Christianization in Kryon, and I think a lot of the people that come to Kryon are recovering from forms of Christianity or other religion. So when Kryon is channeling, it feels like preaching. Kryon uses this intense charisma and personality to captivate people. And in this captivation, maybe people in their own way start to get downloads. Kryon just says a lot of these new age ideas that basically you can find from any other source as well, but because it's a channeled being with a lot of charisma, it captivates people. I don't think Kryon is that harmful. I don't think Kryon is that helpful, hence it's a 5 out of 10. Yeah, I don't know. 4 out of 10, Bentinho Massaro. So I'm actually in a video with Bentinho Massaro called From Abundance and Relationship to Money, From Hippie to Happy. Bentinho Massaro really caught my eye in 2016 when a teacher I was working with was saying like, oh, listen to this guy, to everyone. And what really struck me about Bentinho was how incredibly happy he felt. And I was at a point where I was in my own way spiritually bypassing and just wanted to feel as happy as this dude did. So a lot of the ideas that Bentinho was saying were some things that I was familiar with, but the way that he was saying it with such conviction really like made me like, wow, I want to be like this guy. So I went to his retreat thinking like, wow, I want to like learn to do what this guy did. And if you can watch that video, you can see there's this kind of contradiction within it of he's saying, in order to free yourself from your predicament, young Dante, you have to stop judging other people, yet at the same time making judgments about me. But this alone is not the reason why Bentinho has a 4 out of 10. So Bentinho's online academy, Trinfinity Academy, is basically like a conglomeration of Vedanta, non-dualism, the law of one, and many New Age teachings from Bashar and the like, where he just conglomerates it all together in this one package. And there's a lot of good information in this, so it helps people a lot. And because Bentinho is this normal-looking, attractive from some perspectives, I don't think Bentinho is that cute, but to some people, Bentinho is attractive, and he seems like a normal guy. He really brings these ideas to new people, and that's great. Though I don't actually think that what Bentinho is doing is helping people. So even within this Trinfinity Academy, the highest degree that Bentinho talks about is the I. But if you go to I, there's still an I there. And this is, I think, the key understanding of why Bentinho's work is kind of distorted and really not helpful. There's always a self still present, even at the highest levels. So if we're really talking about true spiritual awakening, we're going beyond the self. We're releasing our identification with our form and with our soul. So it's going directly to the formless. But Bentinho doesn't take you there. He only takes you to the plane that's like an explosion of lights and blissful energies. And everybody wants to be at that plane, but is that plane the highest truth? And this expresses itself through Bentinho's narcissistic tendencies. And Bentinho really doesn't understand love. It's a concept for him. It's not a way that he relates to people. And if you need to see that, just look at the article that his ex Jocelyn Dower or something wrote, basically explaining how Bentinho was asking her to improve herself and to surrender herself and just play a role for him. Bentinho looks at himself as God and looks at other people as sheeple. So this is something that really doesn't resonate at all, is this, there's people that are not waking up on this planet, and there's people that are causing harm on this planet. Though when we have a strong sense as I am different from them, fundamentally, we make an identity of this is me, I'm a powerful New Age light worker, starseed, galactivator, so on and so forth, and I am better than those sheeple, zombies, whatever you call the people that you separate yourself from. It's an us versus them game that just strengthens your ego and brings you into a narcissistic state, which is just this inflated place of mania and then avoiding those lows. And a lot of people I know are really into Bentinho, and for many of them it's like this idolization thing, and I can see really clearly it's not making them happy. I think Bentinho's teachings are just slightly dangerous, hence it's a 4 and not anything less, though it's not going to lead you to a pure state of connection to source. It's only going to strengthen the ego structures that are in the way, and that's not going to make you very happy. It's just going to keep you separate. So many people have left everything behind and abandoned their relationships and ruined their lives in order to fall in love with this person and idolize them. And to me, that's really dangerous. So, yeah. That was one of the biggest lessons for me in just, only following the good feeling things doesn't always work. But that lesson for me changed my life in such powerful ways. So that is why, again, I'm grateful to have these teachings that show me that you can make something very positive even out of the most negative circumstances. And it wasn't necessarily a negative circumstance, but there were a lot of aspects of it that I really had to go deep into and make something positive out of. Initially, it was one of the best experiences ever, though over time, as I looked deeper into it, it was very challenging for me. 3 out of 10, Mooji. So this is probably the most uneducated rating that I'm making in the whole thing, because I've never really listened to more than 5 or 10 minutes of a Mooji satsang. I just really followed my intuition when my friends were telling me how great this person was. I looked at his picture, I listened to his voice, and I was like, I want nothing to do with this. And I had no logical explanation for that, and I kind of justified it at the time of being like, well, this is just a teaching that's not aligned with what I'm doing. And maybe that teaching is great for other people. What I gather from what I've heard of Mooji's actual teachings are it's just this other spiritual bypassing kind of thing that brings people to disidentify with everything and not work on clearing up the structure of their ego, and instead just dissolving it before it's actually something that can be dissolved in a healthy way. And that's very dangerous. And beyond that, there's so much information about the abuse coming from Mooji, and even friends of mine that were really into Mooji before this information came out said things to me like, wow, how much good energy came from Mooji, and then all of a sudden he did or said this thing that was very shocking, and how she really didn't resonate with the organization of it. And now there's a lot of information out there that's exposing this person, and it's really a good example of how dangerous some of these idolization of guru sorts of things are. So, and then again below that is at 1, Babara Marciniak's recent teachings that are super fear-based. So, these are just the biggest names that are the most common and popular, and the ones that have had the most influence on my life and presence in my life. There's a lot of other teachings out there that I would rate very high at a 9 or 10, though I just didn't want to include in this video because maybe they have a very personal connection to me, or they're not quite so well known to the extent that it could be important to share that. There's a lot of teachings as well that are very low on the spectrum that I would say the same thing about. I can't talk endlessly about all of these things, and I commend you if you have watched this far in the age of short attention spans. So, with that said, please let me know what you think, and I would love to see other people put the spiritual teachers they've followed into the ratings. Just popping up at the top of my head, things I didn't talk about. I would put Ram Dass at a 7 or 8 or 9. I want to read more of his books at one point because it's only had a positive impact on me. I am also very interested in this vortex healing modality that Rick something has developed, but again, I haven't exposed myself to enough of the information that I want to put it here directly as a rating in this video, though it's just worth mentioning. So yeah, please subscribe, share this video if you've enjoyed it, and let me know if you didn't enjoy it too. That's always fun. Share what you think about the different spiritual teachers in a comment, and if you want to work with me deeper, I offer channeling sessions and guidance online, so you can look at my website blissbeings.com for those opportunities. And as well, I'm really attempting now to really get this channel to expand and make 5 to 7 videos a week. So that's exciting for me, and if you can support this channel and its expansion in any way, even if it's just a prayer, thank you so much. You can support my channel at patreon.com, where you can give a small monthly donation, and there's extra goodies that I'll send your way because of your support for my support. Thanks again for watching, and have the most blessed, beautiful, bright day ever.